What's up, fam? I am Chosen144. Exchanging energy with those around you is a real deal thing. It's constantly happening. That's why people will say, if you hang around a whole heap of people that have no ambition and that are lazy and just sit around, you'll become just like that. You know what I'm saying? Your energy can be influenced by those other energies, okay? So, and if you are hanging around a successful person that is a real go-getter and always energetic and, the opposite to lazy, you will become that way, okay? You will align with the type of reality that will have you in that energy. And it's just the way it works. If you're surrounded by a collective of drainers, you'll become a drainer. And if you're surrounded by a collective of go-getters, you'll become a go-getter. So energy exchange is very real. Now, when it comes down to DNA exchange, shit gets deeper. I'm talking just kissing somebody. The act of just kissing someone is an exchange of energy and DNA. Just that. So if you're constantly exchanging DNA in this way, you will be influenced by that person's DNA and vice versa. Oh yeah. Then shit can get even deeper. So if you partake in intimacy, a sacred energy exchange, catch my drift, this is when shit gets really, really deep. Okay? You start to exchange DNA in a very big way. And you will be absorbing that person's generational trauma. You'll be absorbing that person's emotions. The emotions that they regularly embody the most. And you will literally start to mutate your DNA accordingly. And it's subtle, but it's noticeable as well. And females will naturally absorb the male's DNA a lot more. Okay? That's why it pays to never be, promiscuous, so to speak, without clearing the energies from previous intimate relationships, mourning the good and releasing it and working through and forgiving the bad and releasing it before you get going again, so to speak. You know what I'm saying? And you'll see this. You will see this. People that are promiscuous in a big way will start to show signs of personality disorders. Yep. That is because they are taking on emotions. They are taking on emotional traumas from that person. Their generational trauma, is if it hasn't been worked through, that they've taken on from parents and their parents' parents and things like that. And taking on all of their partners' emotional traumas as well too. And that's a lot to deal with. That's a lot of energy to work through. And it manifests as seemingly personality disorders. And people will start to identify with these disorders and take it on board as their identity. I see creators always, getting creative around certain disorders and things like that. And it's really just a whole heap of stored emotional trauma being made manifest. And then, it has to be worked through, or you will become your trauma. You'll start to wear it on your sleeve. You'll start to make content around it. I suggest just processing it, but, courses for different horses. I'm not even, going there. I don't have an opinion about any of that stuff. I'm just saying that this is real shit. Promiscuous people will tend to have personality disorder traits. And you will see when it's long-term, when we're talking a long-term relationship, like a marriage that goes for like 30 years or whatever, you'll start to see the couple will start to even look like each other a little bit. And like I said, females will absorb the energy and the DNA more than the male. So a physical female will start to take on more of the physical traits and start to resemble their male counterpart. And a little bit vice versa. The male will start to look a little bit like the female as well, but more the other way, just due to the nature of the feminine absorbing more of that exchange. You know what I'm saying? And this can actually be seen as well too. You know those shows how, Maury and things like that in the States, and, there's other shows where they do a test to see if somebody is the father or is not the father and things like that. A child can start to look like the male that the female is more intimately active with during that pregnancy. So male A could be the father, but then he dips, he's out of the picture for whatever reason, this is just an example. And then another gentleman comes along and starts doing the deed throughout the experience of the pregnancy, and the child will take on the traits of that male, even though he is not the father. This is how it works. Okay? If you start, I won't go all into scientific bullshit because it's hard for people to relate to sometimes, but literally, if you take the bone marrow from a female that was pregnant to a man a year after the pregnancy, you will still most likely find traces of that male's DNA in the bone marrow. That's how deep shit gets, okay? With DNA exchange, sacred energy exchange. So this is why it pays to clear things up in between relationships, okay? Release things so that you're not carrying baggage with you and just adding more baggage and adding more baggage by running and seeking outside validation from the next person before you've processed the previous relationship. Could be plural, you know what I'm saying? And I'm not putting down anybody who has been there, done that, so to speak, and been promiscuous. I'm just saying that's a lot of energy to work through, and it's going to take some solitude. It's going to take some time to work through that so as to not continuously replay those patterns, positive and negative, in next relationships to come. Because that's what will happen. You will, if you haven't cleared up any of the, emotional trauma, if you haven't cleared up the energy from past relationships, those negative patterns from those relationships will replay in future relationships. Your soul energy will search for it, will create it, so that you learn the lesson and choose to release that energy once and for all. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, this is real shit. So I guess I'm making this video to just make people aware that these types of energy exchanges are very full on. They're very deep. Okay, it's not a case of I can just go here, there and everywhere and do anyone that wants me and things like that. and not have to work through the energies from that person and all of their flings or whatever the fuck. Just putting it out there. This will hit home, because if you've been with someone who is promiscuous, they will have seemed like they have personality disorders, deeply embedded. And this is why, okay? I just want to create a bit of awareness around this shit, because in this day and age with this hookup culture and shit like that, people don't realise that they're fragmenting their souls. They don't realise that they are creating soul contract after soul contract that needs to be worked through before they can actually find peace, okay? Before they can actually enjoy emotional fulfillment. It's all part of this. It's all part of the learning process, okay? Pretty soon you'll learn to recognize sacred energy exchange as exactly that, a very sacred practice. I fucking love you, fam. Peace, love, and light.